The story opens under the soft hum of classroom ceiling fans, their rhythmic sound breaking through the silence of a Monday morning. Mrs. Amara Johnson, 34, was seated behind her wooden desk, red pen in hand, marking stacks of essays. Outside, the world buzzed, students shouting, the smell of chalk dust thick in the air. She had been teaching for nearly 10 years, respected, brilliant, and admired for her calm authority. To her students, she was the kind of teacher whose presence commanded both fear and affection. But beneath that composed exterior, Amara carried loneliness like a second skin. Scene 1. The new student. It was the beginning of the second term when Daniel, a transfer student from another school, joined her class. He was 21, a final-year student in a secondary school system that had failed him repeatedly. Tall, charming, with an intellect that surprised her. The first time Daniel answered a complex literature question on things fall apart, Amara found herself momentarily lost. There was something about his voice, confident but unrefined, that reminded her of her own youth before life hardened her. As the days passed, Daniel lingered after class, asking about poems, novels, and sometimes life itself. Amara, flattered by his curiosity, began to spend a few extra minutes with him after lessons. It started innocently, discussions about metaphors and themes, until those discussions began stretching into hours. Scene 2, boundaries blur. One evening, the rain fell hard against the classroom windows. Most students had gone home, but Daniel remained, waiting for the downpour to subside. Amara offered him tea from her flask, a simple act that would later be remembered as the moment the line blurred. They laughed, shared stories, and for the first time she realized how long it had been since she laughed that freely. Daniel complimented her intelligence, her beauty, her strength. He said things her husband had never said, or perhaps things she had stopped listening for. The next day, she found herself looking forward to his greetings. Days turned into weeks. The teacher and the student became friends, then something neither could define. Scene 3. The whisper of fire rumors began like whispers, Mrs. Johnson and that Daniel boy. They stay long after class. She tried to ignore them, but the eyes in the staff room began to linger too long. Daniel, bold and unbothered, smiled through it all. Let them talk, Ma, he said once, his eyes fixed on hers. They don't know what we share. By the time she realized the fire had started, it was already too late to put out. Scene 4. Discovery. It was during the inter-house sports event that everything changed. A student had borrowed Daniel's phone to play music, only to stumble on a series of photos innocent but suggestive of him and Mrs. Johnson laughing together. After class, sitting too close, too comfortable. Within hours, the images spread across the school like wildfire. Teachers stared, parents demanded explanations. Amara's husband, a banker in another city, was called. She stood before the school board, her voice trembling. I did not cross the line, she said, though her own heart betrayed her. But the damage had been done. Daniel was expelled. She was suspended indefinitely. Scene 5. The fall. Weeks later, she sat alone in her apartment, the sound of her own heartbeat echoing in the silence. Outside, the world went on, but for her, everything had stopped. She received messages from Daniel, but she couldn't bring herself to reply. Each word reminded her of what she lost, not just her job, but her identity in the darkness. She asked herself the question that haunted her. Scene 6. The return. Months passed. She found a small school in another town willing to give her a second chance. On her first day there, she walked into a classroom full of eager faces. Among them sat Daniel, older now, more composed, volunteering as an assistant teacher during his NISC program. Their eyes met. 1,000 unsaid words passed between them. This time she smiled, not as a lover, but as someone who had learned the cost of blurred lines. Welcome back, Daniel, she said softly. He nodded. Thank you, Ma. And that was it. The chapter that once burned with forbidden emotion now closed in quiet understanding. Final. Scene epilogue. That evening, Amara sat by her window, watching the sunset wash the town in gold. She opened her laptop, typing the title of a new story she planned to publish anonymously. The woman who dated her student. At the bottom of the page, she typed, "Sometimes the heart needs boundaries the mind refuses to draw." Then she smiled gently at the camera on her desk, turned it on, and began to speak. If you've ever been caught between what feels right and what's truly right, this story is for you. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more powerful real-life stories that make you think, question, and feel. She paused, the screen fading to black as her voice lingered, because sometimes love comes with lessons we never asked to learn.